What's up YouTube? Back at it with another VCR cleaning. I wanted to put together a comprehensive guide for VCR maintenance, and I think this Sylvania unit is a great candidate. It's one of the later models, which were a dime a dozen back in the mid-2000s, made by Funai and rebranded by almost every manufacturer that sold VCRs at the time. So this tutorial is likely applicable to nearly every VCR that's still out there. So let's get to it then. Here it is, not in too bad a shape. It does have a little duct tape residue on the corner, but I'll get that faceplate looking like new again with some alcohol and elbow grease. I'm using 70% here because it'll evaporate slower and have more time to go to work. After letting it sit for a little bit, it'll start coming off with the cotton swabs. Here's what it looked like before, and here's after. You can't even tell there was duct tape there. There's this Sharpie here, and again, scrubbing that with some alcohol, it comes right off. Now cracking into this thing, taking out all the screws that are on top. And I checked the auto head cleaner, and surprisingly the foam is still in good condition, so I leave it there. While I tear this thing down, I'll mention that I already have a buyer lined up for this VCR. It's the same customer who owned the Disney DVD unit. He requested a VCR that has a remote. I usually don't find VCRs with remotes at garage sales and things like that, but this unit is an exception. I'll be able to sell him just what he asked for, but before that, I'll make sure everything is in good working order. By the time this style of VCR was on sale, Funai got quite efficient at making them. That was good for the consumer who wanted an inexpensive unit, but not so great for anyone who wanted to clean or service them. The VHS deck and circuit board drop in the case as a unit. So if you want to work on almost anything, the whole thing has to come out. Then you have to separate the deck and the board, keeping in mind they don't fully separate because Funai did away with connectors and soldered cables straight to the board. Since they don't separate, to access the mode switch, carefully lift the board and pop the cap off with tweezers. You'll need to be cautious as to not put any stress on these metal fingers that are on the top cap. These metal contacts need a good cleaning. I'll spray some electrical contact cleaner and then scrub in a circular motion with a cotton swab. I'll repeat this 2 to 3 times depending on how dirty the switch is. And to prevent future corrosion, I'll add a glob of dielectric grease. Carefully reinstalling the mode switch with tweezers, it's important to get this center just right before snapping it into place. Once it's popped in, you'll want to rotate it back to the original position so that it'll mate with the gear on the deck. Usually there's an arrow on the circuit board. Now it's time to inspect the belts. There's the loading belt on the side of the deck and the capstan belt on the underside of the deck. I'll remove both with tweezers. For these, we're just checking the spring back. If they've still got some good spring, they don't need to be replaced, they can just be cleaned. And that's where our old friend acetone comes in. Just wet a rag, fold it over, pull the belts through a few times. Once the black streaks start lightening up, you can stop, and then we'll go ahead and put them back in. I'm being extra cautious as to not rub the belts on any of the greased components. This is going to ruin the cleaning that you just performed. Inserting this belt on the lower half is pretty difficult. I was able to wrap it around the rear pulley and then pull it across the front pulley with the tweezers. Now it's time to secure the deck back to the circuit board. And then I'm going to grease the chassis with this Super Lube, same stuff I used for the mode switch. It's compatible with most plastics and it lasts a long time, so I like it. If you've made it this far, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below if this video helped you or if you ever perform maintenance on any old electronics like this. Now I'm poking around the capacitors in the switch mode power supply, measuring their ESR. Not totally necessary, but if you have an ESR meter, you might as well do it while everything's out of the case. If I find any suspicious readings, I'll pull them out of circuit and remeasure. At first I thought this one was a little high, but it's a low value cap, so this is fine, and I put that back into circuit. It was the same story for every other cap I pulled. Values measured fine once they were out of circuit. Finally, wrestling this thing back into the case, cleaning a few more items, and then I'll be done. This is the most popular method I've seen for cleaning the heads, taking some high percentage isopropyl on a folded over printer paper, holding that against the heads, and then spinning the top of the drum. Now for the tape end sensors. I'll first remove the prism in the middle and clean the infrared LED underneath with alcohol. This system acts like the VCR's eyes. The infrared LED shines a beam of light via a prism to either side of the VCR, where it's seen by photodiodes which sense the light. When the beam is broken, the mechanism knows a tape is being loaded. And when the sensor on the left sees the light, it knows the tape is at the end and it can stop playing. When the sensor on the right sees the beam again, the VCR knows the tape is at the beginning and it can stop rewinding. These sensors look like small black LEDs. Here's a close-up of one as I clean it. Cleaning the prism itself is equally as important. This can accumulate dust over the years and break the beam of light. Before testing, I'll clean the pinch roller with some acetone and a cotton swab. I'll scrub up and down while rotating to get the entire surface. This roller is what physically pulls the magnetic tape along its path. It needs to be cleaned to have a good grip. Finally, a test before putting it all back together. I'll insert a tape and cycle through all the different functions to make sure the buttons work. There was a time that I tested a VCR and some of the buttons didn't work, and I had to pull it all back apart and fix the traces that were broken underneath. If you're interested in seeing that video, check the link at the top right. And that's a wrap. A successful test, nothing left to do now but to button it up and get it out to the customer.